Salman radiallahu anhu Al Farsi, who later becomes a governor in Persia. So he is a very interesting, and he lived quite long. I mean, some of the riwayahs say he lived 240 years. Allah ta'ala a'lam. But he definitely was very, very long lived. And he had been a Majus, but he definitely, he used to serve the temple. And the Majus would tell the common people that the fire was a miraculous fire that never went out. And he used to see sometime the wind would blow it out and they would go light it again. So he knew that they weren't telling the truth. And then he went to become a Christian, and he actually stayed with one of the Byzantine monks for quite some time. But he noticed he would take money from the people and then keep it for himself. He wouldn't give it in charity. So he just thought, this doesn't seem right. But then he was with a righteous monk who told him that the last prophet was coming. And they knew in the old books it was Baina Harratain, that the prophet would appear in a city between two lava fields. But anyway, Salman Al Farsi was told that he would be between these two lava places. One thing about the Arabian Peninsula, this was all volcanic. The whole peninsula was volcanic, and which is why you see these very unusual formations here. It's a very unusual. I mean, Salman, he told him that he would be between these in a palm, in a place where there was dates, and described in Arabia. And so Salman actually on his way was taken slave. And in those days they had qutta' turuq, these people that used to, in those days, I mean, we still got this going on. But he was taken as a slave unjustly, sold here to somebody in Medina. But he was happy to be here. I mean, his niyyah brought him here, because even though he was brought here as a slave, this is where he was headed. And when he first met the Prophet, one of the things that he was told by the monk was he would accept a gift but not sadaqah. And so Salman went to test him, which is important, and even the ulama take this as a dalil of testing people to see if they really, can teach or something like that. So he asked him. He brought the dates and he put them down, and the Prophet ﷺ said, "Is this sadaqah or hadiyah?" And he said, "Sadaqah." And so he distributed it amongst some of the people, but he didn't eat it himself. So he noted that. The next time he came, he brought dates, and he said, "Is this sadaqah or hadiyah?" He said, "Hadiyah." And then he ate from it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then he told Salman, because Salman had been told about and he showed him the seal. And Salman became Muslim. And then they wanted him to be freed, Salman to be freed. So the Prophet ﷺ went to his owner, and he said that he would accept 300 date palms if they planted them for him, that when they started producing fruit, that he would free him. So the Prophet ﷺ planted the date palms, and in a few months, they actually, even though date palms take much longer to come to fruition, in a few months they'd all grown, the 209, except for one. It was still in a normal growth spurt. And when they came to look at it, the Prophet ﷺ said, "Who planted that?" And Umar said, "I did, Ya Rasulullah." Yes. So the Prophet ﷺ planted it, and then it came quickly to fruition, and then Salman was given freed, which Salmanu minna al-bayt. Salman is our family. So Salman Al Farsi is one of the great Sahaba, and he became a governor in Persia. So Salman, he was a Persian, but he became governor. And the Prophet ﷺ also said about him, he said, "لو كان العلم بالثريا لناله رجال من هذا." Had knowledge been in Pleiades, people from his community, meaning the Persians, would get that knowledge. And that is another clear sign of his nubuwah. One, because of the genius of the Persian people. There's a real genius in the intellectual genius of the Persians predates Islam, their contribution to many, many sciences. But in Islam, nobody did for Islam what the Persians did. Nobody. There is no single people that did what the Persians did for this religion. Arabic language is a Persian science. The grammar is all from the Persians. They set it down. The Arabs learned it from them. The dictionaries is largely a Persian endeavor. The Hadith literature is almost entirely from the Persians. Almost entirely. The great collectors of Hadith, with the exception of Imam Muslim, are Persians. And the greatest of them is their Imam al-Bukhari. I mean, Malik is an exception also. But Malik's Hadith is really a book of fiqh. I mean, there's about 1,723, I think, Hadith in the Muwatta. And over 700 of them are Hadith. But there are a lot of marasil, there's a lot of aqwal, there's what's called balaghat of Imam Malik, which are just things. He said, balagani anna Isa qala kaytu kayta. It's come to me that Isa said this or that. So, and then he has his fiqh opinions. But all of the muhaddithun are from them. Most of the great people of tasawwuf are from the Persians. Imam al-Junayd is the Imam al-Ta'ifatain. He's the Imam of the Imam. You just go on and hadithu wala haraj. So they have an incredible contribution to, and that hadith to Islam, and that hadith is a clear proof of, again, of the Prophet ﷺ's prophecy, because he was saying, وَآخَرُونَ مِنْهُمْ لَمَّا يَلْحَقُوا بِهِمْ. In Surah Al-Jumu'ah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and there are others coming that have not come yet, that was referring to the Persians according to the Mufassirun. And also that تُدْعَوْنَ إِلَى قَوْمٍ أُولِي بَأْسٍ شَدِيدٍ. You will be called to a people who have great power. Those are the Persians. So, and also just as a reminder, we were just with one of the Shafi'i sheikhs of Persia in the Haram yesterday with Sheikh Abdullah Al-Qadi, who's a friend of Sheikh Abdullah Al-Qadi's. And I asked him how many Sunnis were there in Persia, and he said probably about 15 million. So people tend to forget that Persia is still has many, many Sunnis, Hanafis and Shafi'is largely. So, and it wasn't until the Safavid dynasty that there was an imposition that people were forced to become Shia. Before that, the majority of Furs were Sunni Muslims. And they said about Isfahan, which when you see the contribution of the Isfahanis to Islam, I mean, it's a stunning contribution. But they said about the Isfahanis, Ahlu Isfahan Qurayshu Furs. They were the Quraysh of Furs in their language, in their balagha. Badi'u Zaman al-Hamadani, the maqamat are from them. Also the Raghib al-Isfahani, one of the greatest scholars of Quran. His mufradat is a umda in the science of Quranic knowledge. So really extraordinary people. That's all just from mentioning Salman Al Farsi, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. But we tend to forget, the Persians now, unfortunately a lot of Muslims kind of almost look down on them, which I think is a big mistake. They're great people, and especially right now because of the tension. We really have to be ambassadors for those people in the West, because they're good, decent people, and people are very ignorant of who they are. So it's really important to do that, to remind people of the human contribution. Khawarizmi, people forget so much of higher mathematics is from the Persians. Medicine. And also astronomy. Extraordinary contribution in astronomy. And the fact that the Prophet said Thuraya, I mean, just think about that. If their knowledge, because he could have said China or whatever, but he said the stars. Most of the great books of astronomy came out of Persian astronomers in Islam, and that was definitely it was their work that led to incredible expansion of astronomical knowledge in the West.